Have you ever really thought about it? How can we prove, with 100% certainty, where a piece of property begins and where it ends? Well, we're about to pull back the curtain on the invisible map that translates every single inch of California into a unique legal language. Let's jump in. I mean, think about your street address. It's awesome for getting packages delivered, but when it comes to a legal deed, a mortgage, or a property dispute, 123 Main Street just doesn't cut it. We need a system that's so precise it can pinpoint a boundary line down to a fraction of an inch. And that's the puzzle we're going to solve. All right, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with why street addresses aren't enough. Then we'll explore California's absolutely massive grid system. We're going to zoom in and see how that grid gets broken down, look at the methods used for our cities and unique properties, touch on a few special cases, and then we'll tie it all together to see why this language is so incredibly important. Okay, let's get right into it. When we're talking about legal ownership, we need a description that's permanent. It has to be unique and it has to be unchangeable. I mean, think about it. Street names change, right? Numbers get reassigned. You need a language that's basically built on the land itself. So the most ambitious solution to this problem is something called the Government Survey System. Now, why does this even exist? Well, you got to think back to the westward expansion. The US government needed a really fast, standardized way to survey and sell off huge territories. The result was this: a massive, invisible grid of graph paper laid over the entire state. It's the starting point for describing enormous chunks of rural and agricultural land. So how on earth do you even begin to build a grid big enough to cover a state? It sounds kind of impossible, right? Well, you start with the simplest shape imaginable: a cross. It's just two fundamental lines, and everything in this entire vast system is measured from this single point where those two lines intersect. And these are the two parts of that cross. You've got the baseline running east to west, kind of like the horizon, and then you have the meridian, which runs north to south. Where they meet, that's ground zero. It's the anchor point for the whole map. Now here's where it gets really interesting. You'd think a state would just have one grid, right? Nope. California is just too big and, frankly, too weirdly shaped. So it's actually covered by three completely distinct systems, each with its own starting point, to map the northern, central, and southern parts of the state. Okay, so a statewide grid is great, but you can't just give someone a deed for somewhere in the central grid. We need smaller, more manageable pieces. And this is where the system gets, honestly, pretty genius, by breaking that huge grid down into perfect, standard-sized squares. The first and most fundamental square is called a township. Just picture a perfect square in your mind, 6 miles long by 6 miles wide. And you do the math. 6 times 6 is, of course, 36 square miles. This is the standard size of every single township across the entire grid, no exceptions. And this is the beauty of the system's logic. You take that 36 square mile township and you subdivide it perfectly into, you guessed it, 36 smaller squares. Each one of those is called a section. Now, a section is really the crucial building block to remember. It's a 1 mile by 1 mile square of land, which works out to 640 acres. And you get exactly 36 of them arranged neatly inside every single township. So when you put it all together, this is what a legal address from the grid looks like. It's really just a set of coordinates. It's telling you, start at the Humboldt grid's origin point. Go 4 townships north of that baseline, and then go 3 townships east of the meridian. Boom. You've just found a very specific 36 square mile block of land. But let's be real, most of us don't live on a 1 square mile plot of land out in the country. For cities, for suburbs, we need a totally different, much more detailed language. So let's look at the systems designed for the neighborhoods where most of us actually live. Yeah, you can think of these as different tools for different jobs. The government survey is like the sledgehammer for mapping out huge, open areas. But the tract system and meets and bounds, those are the fine-tipped pens for drawing the precise lines around our homes and our businesses. So if you live in a planned neighborhood, this is almost certainly how your property is described. A developer makes a super detailed map, dividing the land into blocks, and then into individual lots. That map gets officially filed with the county, and it becomes the permanent record for everybody in that community. And this is what that description looks like on your deed. It's really simple and direct. It's telling you to find the official map for the Parkview Addition neighborhood, go to Block B on that map, and then find lot number 14. It's clean, simple, and legally rock solid. All right, now for the oldest method of them all, meets and bounds. This is less like a grid and more, well, more like a story. It starts at a fixed landmark, the point of beginning, and then it basically gives you walking directions, almost like a treasure map. Go this direction for this many feet, turn, go that direction for that many feet, until you've traced the whole perimeter and you're right back where you started. It's absolutely essential for properties with irregular shapes. And that brings us to the most critical part of this whole thing. Everything, and I mean everything, depends on that starting point. If it's wrong, if that old oak tree it references has been cut down, if that monument has been moved, the entire description just falls apart. It is legally worthless. Precision is everything here. Okay, so we've covered the big three, but there are a few other special tools in the surveyor's toolkit for some unique situations. Let's take a quick look at those. This gives us a really quick breakdown. You've got government lots, which handle the weird, leftover pieces of land created by things like rivers. A record of survey map is just what it sounds like, an official map filed by a surveyor. An assessor's map is just for the county to figure out taxes. But look at that last one. Informal methods, like a street number or calling a place the Norris Ranch. A title company will not insure that, and that's a huge deal. It means if there's ever a dispute over your property lines, you're not protected. So, we've explored all these grids, maps, and boundary lines. Why does this complex language actually matter to you? Because it is the literal blueprint of ownership. This is the language that is written on the deed to your home, your business, and the world all around you. So here's the key takeaway. You now have the toolkit. You've got the huge government survey grid for the big picture. You have the clean, organized tract maps that define our neighborhoods. And you have the story-like meets and bounds for everything else. You put them all together, and they form a complete language that makes sure no piece of land goes undefined. So, the next time you look at a property deed, or even just walk down your street, remember that invisible map that's right there beneath your feet. It's a language of lines and numbers that tells the story of how our world was measured, divided up, and owned. The only question is, now that you know how to read it, what stories do the property lines around you tell?